I'm Leanne Tran, psychologist who's worked with families whose kids don't fit the mould for almost 20 years. I've worked with children for decades, but I know parents are the real change makers when it comes to their kids. Having 3 kids of my own means I know it's not easy. Parent Like a Psychologist is all about simplifying how you support your kids with psychology information filtered through years of experience to take you from overwhelmed to confident. Come on in. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Parent Like a Psychologist. I am really excited to bring you this episode, which is a bit different from the usual ones. It is a book, a discussion about a book, which I do many times, but this time I'm talking with the author, Dr. Emily Musgrove. But I am doing the interview with a lovely friend of mine who is a psychotherapist, and we often work together. And we did this interview with Dr. Emily together. My friend Shell Griffin works with parents or adults adjusting to life's challenges. I work mostly with kids, and the area that intersects, is parenting. So we talked with Dr. Emily Musgrove together to listen all about her book Unstuck, and she's just got so many amazing insights for how we can turn towards things that are uncomfortable as humans and as parents in order to be able to work our way through things that are tricky. And it's so relevant to parenting. And so I really hope that you enjoy this as much as I enjoyed the conversation. I'd really recommend that you listen to or read the book Unstuck by Emily if you have the chance or are called to, or you're interested after hearing this episode. Thank you so much, and I will chat with you next time. Welcome, everyone, to another episode, and a very special welcome to you today, Emily. We've got Dr. Emily Musgrove to talk with us about her awesome book, Unstuck. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you both so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm so happy to have you, Emily.
Yeah, that's right. I think we are probably more thrilled to be able to chat with you, because not only do we love books, but we both work therapeutically, and so feel there's that connection as well. But we both really like the Imperfects podcast and your contribution to that as well. So yeah, we're feeling very, very excited to chat with you today.
That's so great. Thank you.
I only twigged last week that Emily was Dr. Emily on the Imperfects. Yeah, and I went, oh my God, a little bit shell-shocked.
Yeah, well, there you go. So I'll tell a little bit about you to our audience who might not be as familiar. But so you are a fully registered clinical psychologist and have been practicing for over 14 years. You have worked in a range of different places. You help parents, or not, I shouldn't say parents, that's what I'm used to talking about, but you help people with, well, I guess it's with becoming unstuck, isn't it, in their lives through a range of different clinical approaches and psychology theories. And you've written this book which combines a lot of your experience about that into a guide for people. And so your book, the other thing is that you are the resident psychologist on The Imperfects, where you share lots of the psychological processes and that kind of thing to complement what the others are talking about. You talk about in the book, sorry, I'm not giving you any space to chat yet. But
No, go for it. Go.
Yeah, so in Unstuck, you talk about how being stuck can look and feel different to different people. And it could be feeling trapped, powerless, hopeless, frozen. There's so many reasons that people come to see a psychologist. But you also talk about how getting stuck is part of being human, but staying stuck for too long robs us of our vitality and enjoyment of life, and it can cost us lots of things. And so, in our lowest moments, one yearning shines through the desire for a better way, the desire to become unstuck. And so, in the book, you talk about things like living by your values, overcoming stress, befriending the inner critic,
Mhm.
working with painful emotions, and then taking action as well. I think, that's a pretty good synopsis. Do you feel like that does the book justice and captures all of the goodness in there?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Thank you. That's a beautiful summary, actually. I think really they are the kind of core processes that are represented in the book, and the processes that I work with, on a daily basis, really with my clients. And of course, like as you both would know, in terms of the therapeutic space, there are a million other things that could have gone into the book. Um,
Mm,
these I think the ones that felt the most the most resonance,
Mm.
ones that would kind of really be the backbone of, I think, some of the work that I do. Yeah.
I think I agree. But I think it takes a special skill, which I really liked and think, feels weird always for us to comment on people's writing in their books, but I think it was done really well in the book
Mm.
to condense it down to be the information people need that's going to help them become
Mhm.
unstuck, but not too much. Not too much, not, too
Yeah.
little. It's that perfect balance.
Oh, thank you. That to me actually was the hardest part about writing the book, was um, kind of really holding that theoretical orientation, and what we know about therapeutic approaches, even it coming from scientific language, and then
Mm,
making it accessible and clear to someone that doesn't know anything about,
Mm.
like, for example, acceptance and commitment therapy. But
mhm,
the struggle that I always have is, like, I don't want to lose the essence when it becomes too simple. So
Mm.
it's like this balance
yes.
between, like, holding the complexities of change but making it clear enough. So that
Mm,
was probably the hardest part about writing that book, for sure.
mm. I think that you did it well, and especially because I often read books like that from the lens of, because I work with children primarily, but children all have parents. And so
Yeah.
often I'm thinking about resources for parents. And I think it's one that I would definitely recommend and do recommend for all parents because um, yeah, thinking about it, like, just with my parent hat on and not my psychology hat on, it's enough of a background of the knowledge for me to know what the science is, but then
Mhm.
also really easy to understand. But it had really practical tips in there as well, which is the next thing, because often people will want to know, okay, I get that, but what do I actually do?
Yeah,
And you have those steps in the
absolutely.
book.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah.
And
The
Yeah.
steps, I
those
think. Sorry, Shell.
No, no, you go. You're the guest.
No, 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 you. Please.
The steps that you offer in the book are so practical. I did it by audiobook,
Mhm.
and, like, a couple of times I had to pause because the meditation was coming on in the
Yeah.
car. I was like, "No, no, no." I really I was really transfixed and mesmerized by the learning, and even though I do work in a therapeutic background,
Mm.
um, we still wanna do the learning and growth for ourselves on
Yeah,
a personal level
yeah,
so that we can be, fully available and present for our
yeah,
clients. And I noticed just these, beautifully simple but, impactful practical tips, and through the guided meditations and guided thought processes. And I just found them so easy. I will absolutely be recommending this book to every single client that crosses my
oh.
path.
Oh, that's so nice to hear, thank you.
Yeah, I got
Mm,
a lot out of it. I one one way, like, you just had this way of um, crafting very simple sentences that really packed a punch. And there were a couple that jumped out at me, and one was change is hard, but being stuck is harder. And I just went, like, yes, it's obvious, but to hear it fed back to you, it really landed, and was such a beautiful premise for the entire book. You stayed focused and crafted it really well. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I think, that concept is really so often what brings people in, is that like there's so much discomfort in staying the same. It kind of pushes us to the point of actually there is a yearning here for change. And that kind of navigation of which discomfort are you willing to have, the discomfort of staying the same or the discomfort of changing. And I think that's such a hard thing very often to navigate. And that is, most definitely what often brings people into therapy, I think.
I think therapy can be quite intimidating, the thought of therapy, but explaining it in a way of like where you are, that you're stuck in life, that therapy is not like, removes the stigma of therapy. It's like, I'm stuck, I need some support to get my momentum going again, and to figure out what direction I want to go in, especially from the values perspective, which was, I've got too many thoughts now.
I mean, it is such a barrier, though, that this kind of notion of, maybe we've moved past this, I don't know, but that sense of a weakness for seeking help, that this kind of stigma attached to not being able to do this myself. And as I often say to clients, to me, it takes more bravery to show up to therapy than to do it on your own. It's much harder, I think. We can keep on doing our own thing. That will lead, in my opinion, if we hold rigidly to this, I must do it on my own, that will lead to some kind of suffering at some point. But when we show up to therapy, we're really so often, or even in reading a book, for example, this invitation here is to turn towards what you don't want to look at. And that's this pain that's here, some sort of struggle with this pain. So it's actually in like even in small doses, an experience of exposure therapy. Every time you come into therapy, every time you're willing to, like when you're reading the book or a therapeutic book, that it's this kind of turning towards the discomfort or the pain that's here. And that is, I think, absolutely it requires some courage to do that.
Yeah, definitely. The part about, I think I'm going to go backwards for a step, because Shell, you mentioned the link to the values, and that's one of the first things that I've got written down as well. So not only, but Emily, you've raised another one. So Shell, you said that change is difficult, but not changing is harder. That was the first kind of nugget. And then also it's about turning towards the pain in order to deal with it and make progress is another one. But you talk too about values and describe them as though it's like heading west. It's the direction, not the destination. And that made me think about, Shell, how you were saying that you keep reading therapeutic books and that kind of thing too, even though you are a therapist, because it's not that we arrive at this destination where we're going okay. It's always moving towards that direction of our values. And I wondered what you think about that and how that fits with always kind of continuing to turn towards the pain in order to move through it.
Yeah, I think that to me, that values piece is almost like this compass that we have to tune into, really. And it provides to me this rationale as to why we would be willing to feel the pain. So if we think about that, that notion that our values are like heading in a direction. We never reach west. It is an ongoing direction. And that's what differentiates it from goals, for example. So a goal has a definitive end. We can tick it off. We've completed it. But values are never complete. They're never ending. So what they do is they act as this, like I said before, this compass to reconnect with every time. And that compass is there, in essence, to provide a sense of meaning and purpose for our lives. So even when things feel really painful, it's like, is this pain actually on track to my value direction? Mm-hmm. And so what that might look like, for example, is, it shows up in so many different ways, but it might be, let's just say you feel socially anxious. And there's it's your very best friend's wedding. And you really don't want to go because, attending that kind of event is going to activate a whole lot of really uncomfortable thoughts, feelings, and sensations. Now, at times, it might be that we get so overwhelmed by the anticipatory anxiety and the fear of what will happen is that we may make a choice in those moments not to go. Now, that will bring some relief, and perhaps those feelings of anxiety will reduce or go away. But that moment there of choosing to act on the discomfort takes you away from the values of being a caring friend. So there's nothing, of course, if that was to happen, we bring a lot of compassion to this choice that you've made here, that you made it out of a place of feeling so overwhelmed. And so we hold that with some compassion, but then we also look at, okay, so when that happened though, did that bring you closer towards your values or further away? And now most people, when they make that decision to avoid the discomfort, will say ultimately that has brought about more pain in the end. And so here we go. Here's this choice now. How do I get back on track? What's my next move that turns me back towards west, for example? And so that compass is always available for us to tune into, even if we've been acting in the opposite direction for so long.
Yeah, that's it. Because the next bit I'd highlighted from the book, I think, is that the biggest obstacle to living in our values is pain. So it's the thing that can maybe turn us away from heading in that direction. And yeah,
absolutely.
Maybe even like you said too, that the pain is still there, even if we make those decisions. We still have the pain, but we're no longer living the life that we aspire to live.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's the biggest challenge in this work, is that we will never get rid of pain because it's such a universal feature of being human. But so often, and I'm sure you both would know, have this experience too, is that, we might come into therapy with the expectation that you will get rid of my anxiety, or you will get rid of this sad feeling. And I think it can feel initially quite disarming and unsettling that, no, this feeling that's here, and this is part of you being human. If we get rid of this, then we also throw out a whole lot of other really, really important features of you being alive. And so that can feel really hard. I'm sorry, I'm not going to get rid of your anxiety. But instead, can we find another way of working with it so that it can kind of exist alongside of you rather than it kind of directing your life in such a big way?
I really love that approach.
It's almost, you go. Yeah, me too. It's almost like you can read my notes, Emily. You're on my iPad, because that's the thing that I really loved and resonated with in the book too, that you were explaining that pain and enjoyment are like two sides of the coin. And if we decide to get rid of that pain because of the painful experience, so we throw out the coin, and it really shows that then we're throwing out the opportunities for enjoyment and a really meaningful life on the other side when we just decide to chuck it out altogether.
Yes, absolutely. I talk about this quite often, this notion of pain and something meaningful being the two sides of the same coin. So pain and love often go hand in hand. We see this particularly in grief work. On one side of the coin is loss, and on the other side is love. And the fact that this feeling of grief, the fact that this feeling is here, tells us that you have loved. Now, what that also says, that if you throw the coin away to get rid of the uncomfortable feeling, we also throw away access to feelings of love. We throw away access to connection, to support, and to care. So it's a real, in some ways it can feel like a real bind, that in order to have, like, for example, but this is particularly relevant with something like anxiety or social anxiety, is that if I throw away my anxiety, I throw away opportunities for connection. And the irony or the paradox in something like social anxiety is that the reason that we feel anxious is because we value connection so deeply.
Yeah.
And what often will show up, not just in terms of social anxiety, but in many instances, that when we struggle with some kind of difficulty, with some challenge, I just lost my train of thought. I was going somewhere. Yes. When we experience this struggle, we get two outcomes. The feeling of the struggle with the emotion, so maybe it is anxiety or sadness or depression, but then the other piece is that what comes with that struggle is also then a disconnection from the life we want to live. So when we're so caught up in the struggle with our internal pain or our stories that we tell ourselves, we also tend to then become disconnected from the life that we really want to cultivate for ourselves. So it's kind of like we've lost connection with the world that feels meaningful to us.
As you say that, it just makes me think that that's such a lonely place to be, right? It's connection with other people, but also with what makes life meaningful for us is
absolutely.
really lonely.
Yeah, there is such a pain in that. You go, Shel.
If you're caught in that that thought process and that loop for so long, you just go deeper into that isolation. So it's with compassion and asking for support that you can pull yourself out.
Yeah, absolutely.
You talk, sorry, Shel, do you want to get a word in? Do you want me to? I've got so many questions.
I'm happy for you to run with it, honey. I will pipe up when I can contribute.
Oh, you can always contribute if I just leave a little space.
I have so many thoughts. All my thoughts are just popping in, and my dogs are going nuts in the background. My own anxiety is on the rise at the moment.
Doesn't make it easy, does it? But
no.
I liked, Emily, too, when you were just saying that because you'd lost your train of thought. And I thought, yes, I'm normally the one who does that on the podcast. I normally start a sentence and then go, hang on. But it comes back in time. And I thought it's a perfect example because I always feel anxiety in those moments. But it's a perfect example of how if you get caught up in it, then, you miss that opportunity to come back. But if you think, oh, just give yourself a second and then it comes back.
That's so true.
It still feels awkward, but then you still, experience that, contribution that you can give.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Sorry,
you go, Shel.
Isn't it interesting that I noticed when you did that, I just felt relief, like compassion and relief. But I do that so much. I go, oh my God, I feel so clunky. And then my next thought was, gosh, you made that look so smooth. And I was like in awe of how you handled yourself. And went, why do I beat myself up for not coming across as perfect all the time? I'm human. I'm not meant to.
Gosh, it's so interesting you say that, because I've actually been thinking quite a bit, and I'm sure you guys would be aware too of like the movement around AI as therapy, as therapists. And I was just talking with someone yesterday about this idea that the humanness in the room. So the fact that in therapy that there will be times when I make mistakes. But that therapeutically is so like is absolute grist for the mill. Like here's this opportunity to explore what's that like when I did that. What was that like for you? And so that, like here is this human in the room, and I'm a whole person beyond being a therapist or on a podcast or anything like that. And that, yes, I'm going to make mistakes in the same way that all the other people in your life will make mistakes too. And here is this challenge that we have to see how we repair, and also to reflect upon what got activated for you when I made this error. And so, yes, when I'm going to make mistakes when I do this sort of stuff. And I could have an opportunity to get really critical in my mind about that. And maybe this has just come with some practice, to be honest. But I also just think, oh, well, they're humans. I'm not talking to robots over there. So, so that I think that feels like there's a safe enough feeling there.
Mm-hmm. And it's that relational connection that you build that safety in, which you don't get with AI.
No,
wow. That's a soapbox I could withdraw to someone right
now. See, my mind went a little bit to parenting then, because and another thing you talk about in the book is that those thoughts and that inner voice that we're talking about now, it served a purpose once. And it's trying to keep us safe. It's trying to keep us from being rejected by other people or whatever else it thinks is going to happen. And then it no longer does. The voice no longer serves a purpose. And I draw a bit of a parallel there to parenting. And you did talk about some examples of parenting in the book, which is another reason to recommend it for parents as well. But I think often that, like in dealing with our kids when they're really upset about stuff, we do have lots of those automatic responses that maybe served a purpose once when we were young, and they don't anymore, and they're not in line with our values and how we want to be as parents. And you had really great suggestions in there about how to break that stress response initially to give us enough time to think and choose how to respond. I already have mentioned that to a parent in a session that I did. So it's, I think because it's that to me is a really big example of when we're battling with lots of stuff in our heads and we want to choose the right path.
It's so hard. And having kids, not just having kids obviously, but in that caring role where we have people that are depending upon us for functioning and to be alive, and that we're cultivating and shaping their world. Gosh, it brings up all of our own core beliefs. It activates our own learning histories, our own experiences of being parented. And so often this challenge is like, how do I notice my own internal story and step down from it in order to attune to this child that's here, that is in need of something? And it's a huge challenge because we're so ordinarily and understandably, we can live in our heads and we can be reacting to those automatic stories that are showing up. And also not only the stories, but the feelings of discomfort that arise. So, for example, when your child is getting really, really upset about a particular thing, like with some spaciousness, and it's maybe not in the moment, maybe it's even afterwards, what was getting activated for me there? Like, why was I responding in that way? What does that say about, my learning history? And so there are those moments for us to be really tuning into, how did I navigate my childhood? What did I need to do to have my needs met? And how does that link to the internal dialogue that I have now? And it can show up, as like in so many different ways, whether this is really perfectionistic thinking, having some unrelenting standards, like I must do it this way, I must do it perfectly, or it can be much more critical what's wrong with you? Why can't you get this right? That kind of critic tone that's in there. And again, those stories really may have been very adaptive for us to pay attention to, because they will have allowed us to get some needs met from our primary caregivers. And that they may be needs for like attention, to be seen, to feel loved, to feel cared for, even if we're going about it in a way that might seem inappropriate almost.
It's really coming back to being present.
Yeah, coming back to being present. And I think it's hard because like parenting is so emotional as well. It can be stressful. It can be, you know, it brings up a lot of emotions, and we're never as good at problem solving when we're highly emotional.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
You two might know this more than me because I tend to work mostly with kids and then with parents just in that parenting realm. But do you feel like this is a thing that's harder for this generation to do than it has been before, where it seems to be we've got this imprint of you know, how we were parented or what that was like, and then trying to actively choose things a little bit different?
Do you want to go, Shell?
You can go.
Go on. No, give Emily some time. That was a nice way to say, give me a second to think about it.
I'm happy to do that.
Go for it.
I find that, I guess, being in the generation, it's natural to make it all about us, but also I find that there has been this shift in mindset that we've identified what wasn't working in our childhoods, and that happens for every generation. But I feel that there has been a noticeable shift, particularly from our parents' generation to ours, in this mindfulness of wanting to be intentionally aware of and create an emotional connection with our kids, because we have experienced that request of being seen and not heard, and loving from afar, craving that connection, but simply being raised, like fed and watered. Whereas I feel our generation has that value of nurture as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that has been a definite shift that I've noticed, even in, you know, in clients coming in and feeling, you know, getting even exposed to feelings of guilt about how they're showing up as a parent, and then also that being a reflection upon this not wanting to repeat the patterns that they experienced, or the, you know, the way in which they were parented. And so I think, you know, I think there's a lot of hopefulness in the change in the lens through which we might view the role of parenting. But also at the same time, I also noticed that there is a vulnerability there to experiencing a lot of guilt, and to having some maybe unrealistic expectations about how I should be showing up. That because I'm not doing this mindful parenting approach 100% of the time, I'm not a good enough parent. So I think what strikes me is that in a previous generation, there wasn't a reflection on how we are as a parent. It was just an expectation that you raise kids and these are the kind of rules around it. But now that there is this sense that we're really being intentional, and we're deeply recognizing the pain that can come with certain parenting styles or exposure to certain environments, I think it conversely can put a lot of pressure on us to be the perfect parent. And I think that's a really tricky thing. So yeah.
It can throw us in the other direction, can't it? I'm really mindful. I want to protect my kids, but I also know that they're here to experience a full spectrum of being human. And I can't stop them from experiencing that. Otherwise, they lose their agency. The way I felt controlled growing up, and growing up from a place of fear rather than life, is the living. So it's such a fine balance, and I really hear when you say that, falling into that perfectionism, wanting to get it right, the guilt that comes into play when you think you're not getting it right. But like you said before, Emily, cleaning up and coming back and doing the repair work, and acknowledging, being accountable for who we are in all of our relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is the most integral part in a lot of ways, is in the presence of rupture. How do we repair? Of course, there are always going to be exceptions in terms of what kind of rupture there was. If it was, violence, for example, then that is what we need to be paying attention to. But in terms of like a relational rupture, so I didn't act the way I wanted to act then. That's not that kind of parent I want to show up as. And this is kind of connecting there to values. And I guess one of the examples that I would often give would be something like, so maybe you're feeling really stressed and you'd had a really hard day at work, and then you came home and you yelled at the kids. And when you yelled at them, afterwards you feel like, oh, that is just not how I want to be as a parent. And that feeling there, so that might elicit a feeling of guilt. And that guilt is in some ways a really appropriate response, because guilt will show up, really, if we're looking at kind of like the function and definition of guilt, it's that this feeling arises when we've acted out of alignment of our values. And it's there to prompt us or to give us a nudge to make amends. And so in that instance, so I've yelled at my kids. That's not how I want to show up as a parent. There's a violation there of my values. And so now I get this opportunity to go in and to make amends and to repair. The guilt, though, that shows up when we are meeting our own needs, that's a different kind of experience. And that's not one that we would necessarily need to go in for repair for. And the example that I would often use in that instance might be something like, let's say your child's getting really upset because you're going out for dinner with your friends, and they're like, don't go, mummy. I don't want you to go. And so then this feeling arises, and it's like a guilty feeling. And when you say, okay, I'll stay home, or you leave and you feel absolutely horrible, so terrible, because here is this child very upset. But the guilt in that situation is interesting because, we could say, okay, so me going out with my friends, is this me acting out of alignment with my values? Is this me violating something of my values here? And actually would probably say no. I love my friends and I want to show up to them. And maybe that me going out is actually supporting me to be more resourced to parent you also. So then we kind of look at this guilt. Okay, so what's the function of this guilt here? Is this prompting me to make amends, or is this actually just making me feel more suffering? So the guilt piece in parenting is as you would know, is so complex, but also so important to pay attention to.
Yeah, those are both great examples of how it serves a different purpose. But I think also of how you talk in the book about how pain is always kind of a part about being human. But then it's if we have pain plus resistance to the pain versus if we have pain to acceptance of it being a part of human, and then we choose how to respond, and those leading us on really different paths.
I think that really sits at the heart of some of the work that we do, is like how do we respond when pain shows up? And pain, just being kind of specific here, pain doesn't obviously have to mean physical pain. It means any kind of emotional internal struggle that we experience. And so an example of that might be, and I think I give this in the book, is that let's say you lose your job And when you're told that you've lost your job, like here is a real sadness, a sense of loss, and maybe a sense of anger. And so this feeling is here. And this feeling tells me that I cared really deeply about my job, or maybe that I care, obviously, about financial stability. And so, this feeling is very valid. But what happens then, well, not all the time, but for some of us, is that when this feeling arises, we will make efforts to get rid of it and to struggle against it. So when this feeling is here, maybe I go home and I have a bottle of wine. And so that action there is the struggle against the pain. And now when I've had this bottle of wine, so the next day I wake up and I'm feeling really awful. And now my sleep is affected. My mood is worsened. I'm feeling more anxious. I'm feeling more worried. I'm feeling more despairing. And so now we get almost an expansion of that initial pain. So it's not just the pain here of the loss, but now it's the critic that comes on board and says, like, why did you do that last night? Like, now you're feeling so much worse. So it's like it doubles, or even sometimes like triples, quadruples the pain that was initially there. Now, we can't get rid of that pain of losing the job. It was there for a reason. But our next question is, okay, so how do I work with that so that I'm not reacting to it in a way that actually creates more suffering?
Yeah, multiplying things out. I think it's yeah, but the way, like, that's such a great way to explain it. And I think that's what is really great about the book, Unstuck, is that it can really make what is quite a complicated thing. Life's complicated, emotions are, and humans are, in a way that it's easy to understand for people. And I think for me, I would recommend the book to people because I think it is, like you mentioned, one opportunity for them, for everyone to learn more about the process of being human, which helps us all, but also maybe gives us the opportunity to reflect on what stuff is hard and difficult for us in our lives. And by looking at it, it's already starting to deal with it. But what is your hope for the book, or for readers of the book? What would you love for them to get out of it?
Yeah. Well, just concretely, I would really love for them to come away with feeling like they have some strategies for a start that you can use today. So there's something immediately actionable. But more broadly, and like my deep wish for the book is that it offers a sense of choice, or opens us up to the possibility of choosing. And what comes with choice is hope. And I think at the very beginning of the book, I make a dedication to my two little kids about my great desire for them to know that you always have a choice. So, you may not be able to control your environment or the conditions or the things that you experience, the things that happen to you, but in and amongst that pain, there is always a choice around how we show up to it. And what we do next. So what we do in the face of this difficulty that's here. And so I hope on that kind of deeper level that there would be a sense that it's functioning as a reminder that even when life is really hard, that there is a space in there that we can make a choice.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I think that how great that is if people feel that.
I hope that stands out.
Yeah, I think so, definitely. Do you want to ask Emily some of our typical author questions about audiobooks and that kind of thing?
Sure.
That's your favorite.
My favorite part of the conversation, the data collection. Emily, do you prefer to read a hard copy, audiobook, or Kindle, or all of the above?
I am a lover of a hard copy holding in my hands. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. I have a big thing about bookstores and being surrounded by. I won't go down that path. That will really take me on a tangent. But yes,
you were in fine company.
Yes, you're among friends, both of our bookshelves. You can see. How was it recording the audiobook? Because I listened to the book as well, because
same.
I am a sucker for a book, mostly nonfiction book, but written by the author. I really love that because I feel like the true intention and inflection really comes through, and I don't want to miss out that opportunity.
Yeah.
What was it like to record it though?
Yeah, that's so true. Because I've had other people read sections to me, strangely, and when I've heard them read it, I was like, "Oh, that's actually not how I meant for it to sound." So I was really grateful. I got to do the audio recording. It is a very strange process, I'll be honest. You're in this darkened, windowless room for 3 days, and you kind of go into this like weird, like almost like a twilight zone where you just start reading and like obviously you have to stop because if you stumble you have to start again, but at some points you kind of get into this zone where you've just read pages of your own. It was quite surreal, but it was the people that did it with me were very, very kind and very lovely. So it was a very surreal experience to have.
Well, I think it's paid off. It was lovely to listen to. And so we wondered if you do ever listen to audiobooks, whether you or do you at all? Do you listen to them on regular speed or speed them up?
That's so funny. So I'm in a book club and we often joke about the fact that, as the date gets nearer for us to be meeting to discuss the book, that everyone's listening to it on 1.75. But I actually have difficulty paying attention if I'm listening to it. So I might listen to an audiobook if it's like if it's not for a book club purpose, like it might be I'll be listening in the car and it might be definitely nonfiction. So that's something that I would do. But I don't like listening to it on much higher than 1 because I actually noticed that it makes it elevates my nervous system. I think it's like a rushing feeling that I get. So I would prefer to listen to it on just normal speed, but
Well, I can attest that you sound awesome at double speed.
That's so funny.
Well, how were your stress levels though, Shell?
Last night, so.
I like the idea of doing a meditation on double speed. So take a breath.
I would pause. I would pause it, contemplate, press play again.
Yeah, it's like express meditation.
That's what's so interesting though, I think, is that so everyone we ask the question of has different reasons and different explanations, and it's usually about how they can process the information. So very interesting. And so did you enjoy the process of book writing? Is it something that you think you might do again, or is it kind of like a marathon where you've done it once and that might be enough?
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I have done one marathon, and at the end of that, I said I will not do that ever again.
Okay.
And I can't imagine that also that still holds true like 15 years later.
Right.
Yes. So when I was in the flow of writing and in the researching, I loved it. I really I just remember feeling like this is such an immense privilege to be doing this, and I really enjoyed when I was in the flow of it. My biggest challenge, like I'm sure it is for most people, is time, and just not feeling like I was stealing pockets of time, really. And if I, in an ideal world, if I could quit my job and just spend a year writing, that would be absolutely glorious. I would love that to be the case. But it kind of realistically looked more like I was getting towards the end in particular, I was getting up at 5 o'clock, and to get to, we have a little study, and to get to the study, I have to pass my 2 kids' bedrooms, and we have very squeaky carpet. I don't know why this is.
Okay.
And so I'm like,
yeah.
And then I'd get to the office mode. And then I'd heard, So it was a very, they're like, Mum, It's too early for you to be like, yeah. So that was a bit more of a challenge. So who knows what will happen in the future, but I think I'm just going to see how this goes first.
I was speaking with another author yesterday, and she said that she wrote her book in the margins of motherhood. I just thought that was
great.
Yeah.
That really resonates. That's a beautiful metaphor. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and for taking those 5 a.m. sneaks down the hallway to write it. I think you probably deserve a chance to just fully enjoy life and motherhood and other things now. But thank you for the book as well as for the interview today. It was really great chatting with you. You have got a really lovely way of presenting information, and I think that really comes through in the book as well. So
thank you so
as we've
much.
both mentioned before, you're welcome. Definitely one that we recommend.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for having me. It's been so lovely to meet you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Parent Like a Psychologist. If you found it helpful, please share on Instagram so other parents can benefit too, and tag me at Leanne Psychology so that I can say a big thank you. Head over to leannetran.com.au to join the village for bite-sized psychology tips straight to your inbox. I really hope this podcast has brought a new perspective and you a step closer towards a calm parent and a thriving child. Have a delightful day.